Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's podcast. This is the first podcast episode in a series of 4 parts called Bike Park Basics. We've had a few women reach out to us for advice on bike park how-tos recently, and we wanted to put this together to help those folks, but also in hopes of helping everyone who's looking into getting into riding bike parks. So today, Britt and Beka are helping us break down what to expect on your first day at a bike park, bike rentals if that's what you're going for, how to read a bike park map, trail safeties, and much, much more. So stick around and let us know what you think in the comments after the episode. Hello and welcome everyone to the Women's MTB Network podcast. I'm Mia and I'm going to be your host. Our podcasts are about sharing information on all things mountain bikes from a woman's perspective. We'll be talking about bikes, components, gear, upcoming events, coaching, and much, much more. Our goal is to connect women from across the globe and inspire folks to ride, regardless of age or skill level. We'll have guests from all over the world with all types of backgrounds and different riding styles. So get comfy and be inspired to ride. All right. Hey, everyone. Today we are joined by Beka and Britt, and we're going to talk about bike park tips, bike park how-tos. You know, both of these ladies are pretty experienced when it comes to doing extreme things in a bike park setting. And so I'm new to the game, and I figured a lot of you are too. So I wanted to put something together for us where we get told some amazing things about bike parks. So, hey, Beka. Hi, Britt. How are you guys?
Hi. Doing good. Doing good. Ready to get out there. Ready to get back out there in the parks for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, it's starting to warm up. I don't know about where you're both kind of on the East Coast. Well, I know Becca's definitely on the East Coast. How's the weather out there, Beka?
It's hot right now. It was like in the 70s and 80s today. So a lot of parks are opening up this weekend. Mountain Creek opened within the last week or two. Blue Mountain is opening this weekend. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. Yeah.
Cool.
Conditions are looking prime.
Yay. What about you, Britt? How's it looking over there?
Oh, it's a typical spring in the South and it won't stop raining.
Oh, no.
I went for a dreaded jog today just because I can't ride today because it rained.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to get any cardio I can right now.
Yeah. No, I hear that. When does park season open for you, Britt?
Well, Windrock's open year round, so our park season doesn't really, start or stop if you go to that park.
That's so
same
awesome.
That's
the
awesome.
closest park to me is open year round also, so I'm very fortunate.
That's so
That's great.
cool. Okay, well, let's get into this. I'm going to use me as the dummy to ask you guys all these questions because, like I said, you're the experts here. So we wanted to break this up, and for the viewers, we were going to break this up into a few different parts. And the first one is just basically part one, like what to expect on your first day at the bike park, right? So I'm not sure who wants to go first. What do you guys suggest? What should I expect my first time at a bike park?
Hopefully to have a lot of fun.
You're definitely going to have a great time, and I know we're going to talk a lot about of how to make sure you're prepared to have a great time. I'd say one of the things to make sure you do ahead of time is reserve your lift ticket or your bike park pass, whatever that's going to look like. You want to make sure that you have that set up ahead of time. Oftentimes you can't just show up to the park the day of and get your lift ticket or get your reservation. So definitely look into that ahead of time. And the other thing you really want to make sure you do to save you some time and just to review is looking over the liability waiver. That has to be signed before you can begin riding at the bike park.
So would you recommend I show up a little early to make, they might have some on their website, right?
Some parks do have it electronically, or I know, for example, like at Beach Mountain, they have a QR code that you can take a picture of on your phone and just kind of stand off to the side and fill it out so you're not like clogging up the line if there's a lot of people trying to check in at once.
That's pretty good. That's pretty cool. And the other thing, I've heard that sometimes you get a wristband, sometimes you get a pass that goes on your bike. How does that work? Is that a thing?
Yeah, most parks that I've been to, especially if it's like a shuttle access and not necessarily a ski lift access, you just get a wristband, like the same kind you would get to go to like a bar or something.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely know the first time that I went to Beach Mountain, they give you this big sticker that's like this long.
Oh shit.
And you have to put it on your handlebars.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can put it like around your cables. And I just did not know how to put that thing on. And it was my first time at a ski access park. And I'm like looking at all the people, like, how do I do this? I'm just going to do what everybody else does.
That's funny.
I've seen a couple different things. So I've seen the wristbands. I know that Mountain Creek uses a wristband. I know that Blue Mountain and Thunder Mountain use like an actual,
Mhm.
it almost looks like a credit card, like a pass that you could put either in your pants or wherever that you have to scan. It's
It's like a
almost
snowboard lift ticket thingy.
Yeah.
like a transit, like you're going through the
Yeah, yeah.
transit with like the bars, right? So you scan it, and like if it's in your
Mhm.
pocket, you like lift up your hip, and it's like, and like then it opens up
Okay.
the gates or whatever. So, and then I've also seen at Bryce Mountain, Bryce Bike Park down in Virginia, they have like a ticket that
Mhm.
hangs off the
Mhm.
back of your saddle. So there are different ways that they
Okay.
are gonna like scan you and
Mhm.
So
validate you
if
that
I
you're
don't
there.
have a bike, I know these places rent out, right? A lot of them rent things. I know it must be extra. But do you know if the bike parks have like all the gear you need as well to rent out?
Most should.
Yeah, like pads, helmets, all
Mhm.
that stuff.
Yeah, I would say definitely a full face.
Most of them do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that most of the fully outfitted bike parks, the ones if they have a rental shop, from my understanding is that they usually will have protection to
Mhm.
also rent as well. And I think that's something to look into in advance is what kind of equipment, what type of gear
Right.
that do you need. Full face is always recommended for sure. Gear, but most of the time they do have that, but it is something you want to look
Okay.
into in advance because they do sell out. So it's something that you have to make a reservation for in advance. You never know what other
Yeah, good
events are going
point.
on that weekend that might make
Yeah,
add to like a factor to limit
that's a
their
great point.
availability. But something to look into. So even if you're not sure if you want to make the full commitment, like you just want to try out downhill, you want to see what it's
Cool.
about, see if the place that you're wanting to ride has that as an option to rent a bike, rent
Yeah,
equipment, rent a
and
helmet.
that's even a good option for people that don't have what some would call a bike park appropriate bike. So
Mhm.
like I know that I've been told early on
Mm-hmm.
when I really wanted to start doing some downhill, it's like, well, you have a trail bike, you can't go on this park because X, Y, and Z reason, right? So I guess if you go to a park, they would have a bike that's decently appropriate with travel
Mhm.
for someone to rent out. Now, I will chime in here and say I've gone to one bike park in California, and I had ladies riding trail bikes on there because we weren't doing any jumps. We weren't doing like anything super strenuous, right? So I think we're going to
Mm-hmm.
get into that in a second. But what bike do you, I mean, we've done bike checks on both your bikes. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. We've
Well,
talked
I just
about
got
both
a
your
new
bikes.
bike.
Oh, we're going to have to do another one. That's right. You
Yeah.
did. You got a downhill
That's
bike. You got a
I
downhill bike.
awesome.
finally got a dedicated downhill bike, and it is so much fun.
Oh, yeah. We're going to talk about that later for sure. Um,
That's
but so what
awesome.
kind of bikes do you guys take to the park? Like, what would you recommend?
I mean, I think honestly, if you have a trail bike with like even like 150 millimeters of travel, like that's enough to get you on beginner trails at most parks.
In the front,
I
you mean, right?
Yeah, I mean, I rode when I first started going to parks, my first ever shuttle park was Windrock, and I took my stump jumper and it had 150 and it was
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
fine. And then
Nice.
I got the Juliana Rubion. I rode that at parks. I raced downhill on that in the single crown category for a year.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've seen guys on hardtails at bike parks, so
Yes.
it is possible.
Yep.
I'm not saying it's going to be
Yep.
comfortable, but it is possible if you really want to get out there.
Yeah.
It's just it might limit some of the trails you're going to do or some of the features you're going to feel comfortable on. So to have kind of the most bang for your buck, having a little bit more travel would make the day more enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think what's important is to know what do you have? Like what bike do you currently have and what are your goals? And if you're not sure, take your bike to the bike shop that you're comfortable working in and say, hey, I'm thinking about taking this bike to whatever X bike park. And hopefully if you have like a good relationship with that shop, they can let you know, like, yes, this would be great. Okay, let's make sure, you know, your brakes are tuned up. Very important. Make sure that you have very good working brakes when you go to a bike park. But if you're not sure, you know, what's great is that there's usually a bike shop. If they have a bike rentals available at these bike parks, there's a bike shop usually associated with them. And if you're kind of wondering like which way you should go, should you bring yours? Should you rent? Calling that bike shop is always an option, and they are available as a resource. I know a lot of people that have really nice trail bikes that that would be fine. They would be 100% fine to ride at a park, but they choose not to bring them just for the risk factor of like damaging them or denting them, or, you know, there's a lot more risk involved in terms of how it's going to affect your bike. So I know people that only go to bike parks and rent, and they're experienced riders. So there are options out there. And I think it kind of depends on just what your intentions are, what your goals
and your budget,
knowing what you have.
Yeah.
That too, because renting at a bike park is usually going to cost you upwards of $80 to $100.
Yeah.
In
or
addition,
at a huge park, even more.
addition, right. And that's in addition to the lift ticket. So that's something definitely to consider. Cost.
Okay.
What impact it might have on your own bike. So, but there are options out there, and there are good resources of how to get information.
Okay, and so
I feel like the biggest limiting factor for like your own personal bike is, do you or do you not have a dropper post? Like if you don't have a dropper post, you're not gonna have a comfortable ride at a downhill park.
Yeah,
and that's just for safety reasons too.
Yeah, for sure. A dropper post is key. I never knew of one until about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I really started doing riding. That's when I learned what a dropper post was. That's a really good point. So I've also heard that there's a couple different ways to actually get to the top of the mountain. So here in Southern California, all the parks are like a lift. But I was actually just watching a video today from some guy, and it was like a shuttle, like a truck. You just put your bikes in the back and they show you to the top. So you guys have both experienced that?
Most of the parks in the South are shuttle access.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I actually heard recently from one of the parks that does have shuttles that adding a ski lift is like over $1 million. Like if it's not a ski resort already, that's a huge investment.
Dang.
So shuttles, you know, you get some trucks, you get some, you know, purpose-made shuttles built that can transport the bikes. That's a lot less expensive, I would imagine.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. The parks on the East Coast, we only have one dedicated bike park, that's Highland, and they have a lift. They're lift access because they are the only like solely dedicated bike park that doesn't do ski, snow, anything like that. All the other major parks on the East Coast are ski resorts in the winter, so they do snow sports and everything in the winter. So they're utilizing those lifts during the summer months. But every lift is different, and it's a challenge.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of difficult to get yourself prepared of what that lift is going to look like ahead of time, but kind of watch people and see what you're in for, of how you're getting your bike on whatever the device is that's getting you up that mountain. Something for sure to take advantage of, just paying attention to that. Because my first time at Creek, you're on a little gondola, so you're on this little standing room only. Just lifting you up, and you've got to bring your bike up this way and roll it on into that, versus a tray, like versus other parks that have like this tray that you sit it on. So it's nothing that you can truly like prepare for ahead of time, but it is something just to kind of
I'm going to also put little videos of what you guys are referring to. Like, here's the shuttle with the truck, and here's one like with the tray, or where you put the bike in. What was the other one you said, Becca? It was like a tray and a what?
Oh, the gondola.
The gondola.
A tray and a gondola. And I have I've had some experiences, man, with trying to get myself like onto those things. I think I almost like broke the tray when I was at Thunder. They had to like hit the emergency stop button. I couldn't get my bike on in time. The pedal got stuck underneath.
I think we've all had the emergency
it was like
button
this like
had to be hit.
Right. And like, I don't, it's just kind of one of those things that's like, it's okay if it happens. They have these safety things in place for a reason. But I mean, I was like, of course, this is happening to me. And it's like this alarming, blaring noise. It stops the whole
Everyone
lift.
knows.
And so they got to come out, and, everyone knows this girl doesn't know how to get her bike on a lift.
We've all done it.
Regardless.
Yeah, we've all done it.
It's all part of the process. It is all part of the process.
I will report back if that happens to me. And, Becca and I are going to meet up.
Yeah.
You should come, Britt. You should come meet up with us at the end of August at Thunder Mountain, and the three of us should ride. We'll see how I do with that thing. Okay.
That's why I like shuttles better, honestly, because like with the lift, it's always moving. Like you have to get on, or they have to stop it for everyone.
You have to. Yeah.
And so with a shuttle, I can't, I'm sure the shuttles, I'm 5'1", it takes me a minute to like hoist my bike up and like get the front wheel in the tray. And so there's no like time pressure with a shuttle. So that's nice.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, good to know.
That's true.
Good to know. Okay, so the other thing I noticed is everything is marked with like as if it's a ski resort, right? Like it's green, blue, black, double black. I've seen on trail floors there's like a red for like extreme. Do you see that at bike parks too? Like extreme red?
Well, I know at Windrock their reds are really like dark blues. Like it's not quite a black yet, but I think some parks might have red categorized differently.
Yeah, so I know at Creek they go all the way up from green to black to they do like a red, and then they do this like crazy like black and red checkered almost thing that's like expert only. Like, so I think what's important is to look at the trail maps ahead of time, kind of get an idea of what those like color ranking systems look like, so you don't accidentally wind up on a trail that's outside your comfort zone. So what is it? Pre-ride, re-ride, free ride is kind of the mantra for when you're riding at a park. So like pre-ride, check out the ride ahead of time, give it a nice, slow, easy, like scouting ride, like you're checking out a trail, you're not, and then re-ride, okay, try it again. And then free ride when you're just going to go like all out and open it up. So it's really about being safe and knowing what type of trail you're getting onto. But ask other people that are there. I think that's always important depending on the park or depending on where you are. Sometimes they have trail crew members that are on the mountain. I know Blue Mountain has that, where they have people that are there like working to help kind of guide you and tell you where to go ride. Or look for someone that knows what they're doing. Say, hey, I'm new here. What do you think? What do you suggest that I try out? Because, safety is really important.
100%. So it's interesting, Britt, that you're saying it's a little bit different in terms of like the most extreme ones. But I think, like Becca was saying, it's all about preparation, right? It's like what to do when preparing for safety when you get there.
Yeah. And something to think about too, that like even though I go to parks all the time, I always forget you don't get a warm up at a bike park. There's no climb up. There's no flat trail warm up. You just ride up on a truck or a ski lift and then you drop in. And so you really like, you can be very calm and chill and like really just check it out your first few runs, because what's the worst that's going to happen? Like you run out of time for the day, you're not going to get as tired because you're not climbing thousands of feet to get back to the top. So you can definitely kind of take your time and learn the trails a little more. But yeah, every time I go to a park, I drop in on my first run, and halfway down, I'm like, why am I going this hard? Like, this is a warm up run.
Right.
Maybe because you just get so excited.
Definitely.
Right? Like, I'm here. I feel that's what Becca's going to do when she starts going back to riding parks.
Oh, I know. When I first get out there, it's just going to be like, okay, I've just had 9 months off. Sure, goodbye. But it is important, though. And I think the other thing that's important in this, I didn't realize this until I started to go to multiple parks, is that what is a green or a blue at one trail system might not be a green or a blue at another trail system, like comparatively speaking. Like when they rate these, it's all relative to like kind of that mountain, to that trail system. So you might be able to like max out your blues, your blacks, whatever at your local systems. But then when you go to a bike park, start easy. Just start lesser than you think, because that rating system might be completely
Yeah,
different.
that's good.
I know that was a big learning curve for me, was like, oh wow, this is way out of my league from what I was expecting.
Yeah.
So just another kind of piece out there. Just because you can master all the blues and whatever at your local trail
Right.
might not mean the same thing when you're at a
Yeah,
bike
that's
park.
really good advice. That's really
Yeah.
good advice.
And also some parks, you know, like where I live, everything is like hand cut, it's rooty, it's rocky. So like when I start going to parks, you know, they'll have green tech trails or green jump trails. And I was like, oh,
Yep.
I don't know how to jump because
Yep.
I don't have that where I live. And so for me,
Dang.
those were really hard at first.
Yeah.
But usually
Mhm.
parks do a pretty good job of labeling which one's a tech trail or more of like a flow or jump trail.
Okay.
Like for example, I went to Whistler last year and they have like a whole trail matrix of like, this is the progression you go in if you want to do jump trails.
That's amazing.
This is the progression if you want to do
Mhm.
tech trails. And so, yeah, even the
Mhm.
difference between a green or a blue, you know, like let's say I want to do a blue trail,
Yeah.
a tech trail versus a jump trail, for me are going to feel very different just because I'm more comfortable on one than the other.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, right? Some people are more skilled with tech. Some people have no skill with tech at all. So yeah, that's another big
Mhm.
one. Yeah, thanks for pointing that one out. God, I got to look for that too. So much to think about, which is why preparing is so important, right? That's why preparing. Okay, so one last thing, because guys, we're gonna do this in a few different parts. So this is just like the first thing to prepare as you're going into the bike park. The other
Mhm.
thing I noted that Beka had told me about offline in a different time was to make sure you have the trail rescue phone number. How do you guys find that?
Yes. So usually it's available on the website or it's available on the trail map.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a trail map. You either usually kind of by like the major hub of where the majority of people are. It's usually a very big, like almost billboard, not billboard, but you know, very large map that looks like a ski map.
Yeah.
But it's all your trail systems. There should be that number there.
Okay.
But if you're not sure, whenever you're checking in and getting your pass, getting your information, you can always get it from those people as well. Enter it into your phone, program it into your phone, just have it there.
Yeah.
Have it readily available because when you need it, and hopefully you
Yeah.
don't, hopefully you never
Hopefully you don't
need it. But when you do, you don't want to be searching
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. Yeah. So the last thing here we're going to talk about, and we're going to do a part 2 of this, hopefully in the next week or so, is the gear. So what do I need to show up with when I go to the bike park? Not, I mean, obviously a bike, but you know.
I would first check and see if the park requires a full face because some do. So if you don't have one, that might be a situation where you need to rent one.
Okay.
So that would be definitely like starting point.
Wait, so some parks don't require full face helmets?
Mm-mm.
Oh,
Some don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, there's my parks. Yeah, my parks. I don't think require it. They recommend it, but it's not required.
Okay.
It's not required.
People.
And I do see plenty people, and my first time or two was not in a full face because I wasn't ready to make that purchase. I wasn't ready to
there's
make that jump until I knew kind of like what I was getting into and what I wanted to do.
Yeah. So that could
But so that's something to kind of consider is like think about your skill level, think about what your goals are for the park. Be aware of that. Usually the places have them available to rent, and renting a helmet is much cheaper than renting a bike.
That's what I was going to say.
So that is an option.
An option would be to rent it if you don't know. Okay, so full face helmet. What else?
Yeah. Knee pads.
Good protection, knee pads, but even if you're not ready to make the full jump into knee pads, elbow pads, chest protector, like there is a lot of ways that go up and up and up the scale in terms of level of protection. I would definitely suggest wearing long sleeves and pants. I would try to minimize the amount of skin. Yep, exactly. Even if it's hot out, even if it's warm, I would minimize the amount of like open skin exposure that you have. Because any of that is a possible point of contact with the earth. And you don't want to make that any worse than it needs to be.
Yeah, and you're traveling at higher speeds at a bike park, so any crash you have by nature is going to be a little bit more high consequence.
Okay then.
It doesn't have to be
Look-
scary, just things to
No,
think
I know,
about.
I know. But you're right. Like, I've seen so many crashes lately. Sometimes I just sit there and watch that pink bike Friday fails,
Oof.
and I'm just like, oh no.
It's wild.
These poor people.
It's wild. Yeah. So even if what you have is like trail level knee
Mhm.
pads or elbow pads, I think that's still a great way to start and bring that.
Nice.
So even if it's like knee pads and like higher socks or a long sleeve shirt, something that's just kind of giving you a little bit more protection should you make contact with the ground, which
Cool.
hopefully you don't.
Yeah.
But you kind of always want to anticipate for that possibility.
Yeah. And I
All right,
I don't wear elbow pads.
That's
I
okay.
can't. Yeah.
Some people wear them.
Yeah, and some people, yeah.
Yeah. I definitely wear knee pads, but yeah.
So,
okay, so we're gonna go into details of gear in the next section, but before we go, I wanted to ask you both, what tips do you have for first time mountain bikers going to a bike park?
I would say just kind of understand what are your goals for that day, and at the end of the day, just really try to make it about having fun. It's going to be intimidating. I think no matter what you're kind of going to set yourself out there for, it's going to be intimidating because you're going to see a level of riding and a caliber of riders that you don't normally encounter on trails. But you can be brand new and still have lots of fun, and you're just as entitled to have fun there being brand new. So try to keep that into perspective, and as long as you make the kind of the preparations leading up to this, there's no reason why you can't just have a great time.
Awesome. Love it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of that. And like she said, we are entitled to be there no matter your skill level. I mean, I still will some days go to parks and just ride green trails all day long and have a blast.
That's so good.
Yeah, I mean, just go into it. Try not to be intimidated, look around, kind of get a feel for it, get the lay of the land. But at the end of the day, everybody at that park was a beginner, and they've all had their first day at a park. So no one is judging, if you load your bike on incorrectly, like, it's okay, you'll get it the next time, like, we've all been there.
Yep.
All right.
We have all been there. So don't set your expectations like you're supposed to, match up with these pros, these experts or whatever, these people that like know what they're doing. You're just as entitled to be there as anyone else.
Love
and
it.
The goal of riding at these parks is to have fun.
I mean, the goal of mountain biking is to have fun, right? It doesn't matter what happens, just have a good time.
Exactly.
You two are amazing. I am so glad that you're both part of this network that we're trying to get off the ground. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for your time tonight. I'm going to have all the info for them in the descriptions if you guys want to reach out to either ladies. And we will have a part 2 coming up. So stay tuned for that. Just watch for our Instagram. We're going to have everything launched on there. So for now, thank you both and have a great night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.